And we are now live on Zoom. So take it away, Mr. McClellan.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Good evening and welcome everyone. September 6, 2023 meeting of the Cohasset School Committee. Would all members that are present please indicate so in roll call. Mr. Carr?
Present.
Mr. Kearney?
Present.
Mrs. Leskey?
Present.
And I am present. Craig McClellan. Mr. Dial is unable to be here because of a personal engagement this evening, so I'll be filling in for him. Would all those who are willing and able please rise for the station of Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, well, welcome everyone to our first meeting since the start of school. It's been a great start of school. Thank you to our leadership team and our wonderful staff for making that possible for our students. The first agenda item, as always, public comment. So there are a few individuals in the audience. If you have public comment, this section of the agenda is reserved for points of discussion or questions or comments that aren't related to something that's already on the agenda. If your comment or discussion point is related to something on the agenda, please just wait until we arrive to that point, at that point in the meeting. If you are participating virtually, you can make a public comment at this time using the Q&A feature on Zoom. That link is on the top of the agenda. So Dr. Scollins
Cannot
usually
public comment on Facebook, just so everybody knows.
no,
We don't monitor Facebook.
only
See
Zoom.
us, but we don't monitor.
There's no Q&A feature on Zoom. We can see the comments on Zoom and we can respond to them. Dr. Scollins, oftentimes you're monitoring this for us.
There are no questions right now.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll move on then to our invited guest section or portion of the meeting. And our first invited guest is Mr. Adam Norman, who wants to address the committee related to, address the committee about hydration stations. Mr. Norman, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Hi, so my name is Adam Norman. I'm co-chair of the Cohasset Open Space and Recreation Committee. Peter Riley is also here and is a member of the committee. So for those of you who don't know, our committee supports a number of environmental initiatives around town. We sponsor the Earth Day cleanup every Earth Day in April. We recently got grant funding for the pollinator garden that you see outside Wheelwright Park. You may have seen us out there watering, which we've been rotating watering duties among members of the committee all summer. We also, along with the Wild Cohasset, have been raising awareness about the black swallowwort, which is an invasive plant species, and trying to get citizens who have their own property to help eradicate it. But tonight I'm here as a private citizen. I'm filing a petition. As some of you may know, I'm filing a petition to vote at the April town meeting to add a bylaw that would ban the sale of single-use plastic water bottles. And so as I've been going around town, seeking support for that initiative, raising awareness, listening to some concerns, I've come to realize that we may not have enough publicly available water supply. So I reached out to facilities director, Nick Berardi, and he informed me that the high school and middle school actually do have sufficient hydration stations that have been installed in recent years. Deer Hill also has enough water stations apparently. Osgood could use 2 more.
Yeah.
In addition, a number of fields owned by the town and used by students could use outdoor hydration stations. So that being Alumni Field, Deer Hill, and potentially the Barnes Complex. I know that's run by CYBSA, but because the high school softball team does use that field, potentially we could partner with CYBSA to add a hydration station there. And separately, I've been meeting with the town, just met with Christine today, to potentially have a municipal ban on the distribution of single-use plastic water bottles. And so we would also add hydration stations at various public buildings, whether it's town hall, library, and a couple others potentially. So I'm hoping the committee will support the installation of additional hydration stations so that students can refill their reusable water bottles and not rely on single-use plastic bottles.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. And I should just make you aware that one of our committee members, Paul Pierney, had championed the installation of many hydration stations throughout the district property. And I could see him taking notes when you mentioned there were some shortcomings in the Osgood. So I'm sure he'll be right on that. I'm sure this will go right to subcommittee. This is something that I think that we had taken seriously in the past, and I don't see any opposition happening in connection with this. I will say, I was a little embarrassed while you're talking about. Single use
Well, you're
plastic bottles.
absolutely correct. though. I mean, it's something that we should model.
Yeah.
That hadn't thought of that, really.
Well, as the only member of the committee right now without a water bottle.
I had mine below
He
me.
did it.
No, I didn't. I just put it down. I didn't say that, but I do appreciate and agree with what you're saying.
But in all seriousness, what we'll do is we'll keep in touch with you through one of the, I can tell you right now that Mr. Kearney won't let it slide. So he's already, I think that Mr. Kearney, you likely thought that we were up to snuff, so to speak, in the hydration station department. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. And then there's the softball field issue that we'll explore a little bit more.
Yeah, and we're looking at funding options too, so potentially we can get some grants, which would, so we're in the process of applying for grants that could help offset the cost and soliciting bids and potentially also partnering with Weir River Systems, who supplies water to Hingham and also to some Cohasset residents. We could get some kind of bulk deal from them, so work on this one.
Okay, well, I'd encourage you to stay in touch with either myself or Lance Dow, who's the
Yep.
chairperson, and then we'll provide you updates as to the progress that we make on this issue. Which again, I don't anticipate there'd be any sort of opposition to that. Just it's a matter of planning and
Yep.
meeting and talking about it.
It's a super idea, and the hydration stations that we have are very heavily used and are, I think, a good lesson for our students in conservation and also in, the need for fresh water. So I would fully support it from administrative ones.
Excellent. If I could say something, I agree with you with the water loss. Please tell my kids, if you see them currently saying, you don't move, because they're constantly, I'm just always throwing water along the way. I had thought that we were all set with all the schools, so I.
We have, I would agree
Yeah.
with that Osgood could use,
Yeah.
I was thinking one, but I think two
Two,
are,
yeah.
would
Yeah.
be wonderful.
And both my kids attend Deer Hill, and so my daughter's in fourth grade, my son's in third grade. Just before I came here tonight, she told me she has to walk really far to fill up her water at Deer Hill, so potentially there could be another.
We could do
station
another
Make
one.
it work in
Station.
the
Station. Yeah, and I think we found funding for that in the budget for that. So I think that's something the school could probably do pretty quickly.
Well, we don't know. Let's meet in subcommittee. I mean, something
Yeah.
there's still certainly a willingness to do, and we already
Yeah.
know how much exactly it is to do because we've
Yeah.
done several of them. And
Yeah.
Mr. Kearney, you can hit the ground running.
Yeah, and
Because
also
you've already
too,
done it.
I want to thank you too, because we did mention the outdoor
Yep.
fields and stuff, but that kind of left the radar. So for you to
Yeah.
come here, we really appreciate it.
So any other questions for Mr. Norman?
Can I ask one question about Ben? So there's, I agree, less of this is a great thing. There is a company here in Cohasset that was founded, that has a single-use carton.
Yep.
Would your citizens?
Everybody water,
Okay, yeah.
everybody water.
Would it affect them?
I think it would help them because potentially the commercial ban would cause stores to seek alternative options. So these are great. These are both better than plastic. I think I prefer aluminum just because it's more recyclable. It tends to get recycled. Not that I want to take a position on any specific company, but the aluminum tends to get recycled. This still will degrade in landfill in a very short amount of time versus the plastic bottle takes 1,000 years to degrade. So anything's better than plastic. But as part of the ban, I'm going to be talking with local businesses, figuring out alternatives for sale. And also, that's the number one question that comes up is people are worried they're not going to have access to water if we ban plastic bottles. Just trying to raise awareness for alternatives.
Thank you.
I would just
Any other
add-
questions?
oh,
Oh,
I
go
was
ahead.
just going to add that I feel like too, I'm 100% behind this, that in terms of the trash flow and the
Yeah.
recycle flow at our fields
Yeah.
in particular, where things then get sort of blown away and blown out of trash cans, is my understanding, that if we had hydration stations and people were bringing their own multi-use bottles, we could avoid some of that sort of additional sort of pollution going
Absolutely.
into the school area.
Any other questions? No? All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much
Appreciate
for
it.
coming.
Thank you.
Presentation.
And
And
thank
please
you
do
for-
keep in touch.
Absolutely.
Have a good evening.
All right, the next invited guests are two members of our select board who govern our town. Miss Haley Dippold, who is the chairperson of the select board. And we welcome back Mrs. Ellen Maher, who was a former chairperson of this committee and is now the clerk of the select board and the next sitting member. So welcome to both of you and thank you for being here. They want to address the committee relative to some district relevant issues that are being actively considered by the select board. And so with that, I would turn the meeting to Ms. Haley Dippold and Mrs. Maher. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for your attention and for allowing us on your agenda. Just by way of background, the select board has a very ambitious agenda this year. In terms of our goals, we really are trying to focus on ways to address our infrastructure needs, which are relatively well known, whether it's the schools, town hall, police and fire, roads and sidewalks, fields and courts. And so with respect to the schools, one of the things that we have been considering for quite some time is a school stabilization fund. Again, a little more background. We began a long-term financial planning committee last year around this time. And after some back and forth in terms of trying to get it up and going, which Mr. McClellan and Mr. Dial were on, we were making some progress, but we didn't get there quickly enough for our annual town meeting. But one of the things that we discovered in the course of our research was that the state allows what's called a special stabilization fund. So we're going to focus the majority of our presentation on this fund. But I did want to note, just to preview for everyone, that we do expect to be coming out with some projects that we're going to propose. Many of them have associated tax increases with them. The school stabilization fund is one of those projects. One of the other projects that we're hoping to get significant, if not all CPC funding for, are fields and courts. So this is a project that we've been working on for many years at this point, including relating to the Deer Hill field that currently is right next to the softball field. And so we're going to have more information about that, but there is an overarching project relating to Deer Hill, that field, lacrosse wall, renovating all of our tennis courts, which we all know are in desperate need of repair, as well as a Beechwood playground. And so we voted yesterday to move forward with a bid to get real prices for all of that, to see exactly what we're talking about. And in the course of that discussion, we also asked our procurement director to look into water filtration systems at these various fields as well. And of course, if we're going to be doing significant renovation, it would make sense to build that in as well, given the town demand. So we expect to have more information on that. We are hopeful for your support on that project, particularly because it does involve the Deer Hill field. So we should certainly talk about that, but we're trying to get more exact pricing right now. Right now, the cost is approximately $4 million for all of those projects combined, and that's an estimate. So again, trying to get precise pricing in part so we can go to different committees, including yours, as well as CPC, to make a presentation for that. So Mr. Plex, who is our select board liaison, will be working through that, but we wanted to give a little preview.
There was a community forum on fields and courts a few weeks ago, and I think you can go on to the town website and Google it and find the replay of it. It's about, I don't know, maybe 16, 17 minutes. It's not too long, but it goes through the details of each of the sub-projects for the whole project, if you want to get a feel for it.
Can I just step in for 1 second? There's two things I want to note that I omitted inadvertently in the beginning. One, Mrs. Maher is the select board's liaison to the school committee as well. And two, this is, so these are fairly robust topics that are being sort of introduced, and it's really meant to be sort of a preliminary introduction tonight, not, necessarily, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have a lot of opinions. I'm speaking not only to members of the board, but everyone that's watching right now, and maybe some concerns, but as you just heard Ms. Haley Dippold say, we don't even have necessarily all the figures in line yet. We don't even know exactly what we're talking about, but these are some rough concepts that the select board are considering, and some of them relate to the school. So that's why they're here tonight, and there'll be many more discussions about this, but just to expose everyone to these concepts. I just want to note that as at the outset of the presentation.
Ms. Myra, Sealy People, you just tell me when to, just give me a nod and I will advance it.
So we'll start quickly with how a stabilization fund works. So this is the quick points of discussion. So a stabilization fund, if you don't mind advancing to the next
Yep, of
slide, is a funding mechanism under state law that initially is created by both a town meeting vote as well as a vote at the ballot, which is 2/3. So we have to, because it will come along with a tax increase. You can do a stabilization fund without a tax increase and fund it through different ways, but given the size of the fund we're considering, we believe we need a tax increase. We already have one, which is a special ed fund, which I'm sure the school committee is familiar with. So town meeting may then, and this is set forth in state law, required by state law, may appropriate from the fund expenditures for items. So for example, if you need a roof, you can use the fund to pay for a roof, but it has to be through a town meeting vote for the particular items. And the typical processes will apply to those items. For example, the select board has to put it on the warrant, it then goes through capital budget and advisory. And so it does follow sort of the standard processes for capital items. In light of the fact that, you know, the state statute sets out that it has to be through a town meeting vote, the subsequent expenses that are paid out from the stabilization fund.
So Dr. Sullivan, I misspoke yesterday when we met. I didn't think it had to go through capital, but I read the bylaw today. It does have to go through capital. It's the
I'll
same
forget.
way. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the fund, because it is a tax increase, it is subject to Proposition 2.5 under Massachusetts law. So the select board can increase the amount of the fund, but only by 2.5% because of Proposition 2.5. The amount can also be decreased by a vote of the select board, which is an unusual feature of the fund. So for example, that would be different than a permanent capital override, which would just lock you in forever, and you could not decrease that. But whatever you decrease it to becomes the new basis for the fund. So let's take a look at an example of what I mean by that, if you don't mind flipping to the next slide. So example, year one, let's say we vote at the ballot and town meeting to raise 200,000 for sidewalks for a sidewalk fund. Year two, we transfer 205 into the fund, and then town meeting votes to appropriate 205 out of the fund to pay for sidewalks. Year three, we vote to decrease the fund to 50,000, and then town meeting votes to appropriate 50,000. We can only increase by 2.5% from 50,000. We can't go back to that original 200 if we decrease the fund. We can also vote it down to 0, and it is a select board vote that decides on the future amounts of the fund. In terms of our research on this and from discussions with our finance director, the benefit is that it gives us local control, so you can vary the amount. It is not necessarily a good fit for large long-term capital projects requiring all funding upfront, right? So if you're building a building, it wouldn't be a good mechanism for that. So what are we looking at right now in terms of the number we've been centering on for a few months, maybe 6 months now at this point? We're looking at a 1.5 million stabilization fund. So that would equate to, if we were building a building using a debt exclusion, a $21 million building in terms of the tax increase effect. So this would increase taxes by $400 for the median home, which in Cohasset is assessed at approximately $1 million. So this one you really need glasses for, but, and this is after I even increased the font. So what does that mean if looking at different pricing for the fund? So for example, if we were to do a fund of $3 million, a stabilization fund, that would mean that would be approximately an $800 tax increase for the median home value, which flipped around would also be the equivalent of paying for a $42 million project through a debt exclusion. You don't mind the next slide? So right now, what we are doing is we are reviewing a list of repairs, as you know, because we have been reviewing it with some of you as well to figure out what the repairs are that we're looking at. We're also reviewing a feasibility study, which was something that was suggested to the board last year before last town meeting. Specifically, we're looking at a feasibility study where we think that it's a, and Mr. McClellan, feel free to jump in, but it's essentially a feasibility study where we would do sort of phase one of what you would otherwise do in the full feasibility study required by the MSBA in order to repurpose that information and analysis if we got into the MSBA, acknowledging that some of that money spent would not necessarily all be able to be repurposed. So we went through the full feasibility study, but we get enough to start with and have some options to help guide decisions as we think about, do we want to do, for example, a renovation or a new building or a long-term repair plan? Like, what do we want to do next? And how does that impact how we spend money in the fund or potentially draw down the fund in the future too? Because if, for example, you want to replace the fund portion with a debt exclusion to fund a larger, it makes the tax impact easier, right? If you have the fund already at 1.5 million and then you decide on a course and then you decide to draw down the fund, being mindful though. And this is something that will likely be a recommendation from the long-term finance committee, that the fund is still important for the schools that are not being renovated by Deer Hill and Osgood. So we have to manage that carefully. So that's where we are. And Ms. Marr, I don't know if you want to jump in at all. I open the floor to you if you do. Happy to take any questions as well.
I think you did a great job, and it's, you know, we talked about it yesterday. It was very nice of Mr. Carney, Dr. Sullivan, and Ms. Sullivan to invite me to the, I still call it the Finance and Facility Subcommittee.
Budget time.
But I think it has a new name, I'm not quite sure. Really to kind of talk about this a little bit more and talk about the AI3 list and what was on the list and how Nick Berardi, who's the Director of Facilities for the town, has really taken the list apart and looked at it. I mean, he knows the buildings intimately inside and out, as opposed to the AI3 walkthrough, which is, you know, they see what they see. The list, I believe you guys should have it. I think.
Yeah, and there was a heavy degree of collaboration with Sue.
Sue on it.
myself.
Oh, yeah,
So-
right,
So
Nick.
we feel comfortable with the list.
So there's a lot of things that he's already taken off the list because they've already been addressed. There's a lot of things that I think he has articulated that they're just ongoing maintenance
Correct.
and not part of a major repair and maintenance program. So it's still a big number, but I think it's a more realistic number in terms of, you know, from where we were
Yeah.
from the all-encompassing AI3 report to now something that the town has actually, you know, looked at and quantified.
And I think it's a good list with the $1.5 million amount in mind. There are big ticket items that we need and we need to advocate for in other ways, but for that particular amount. And some of my conversations had to do with the grounds and the need for safety improvements on those grounds, i.e. broken curbing, fences that need to be replaced that are broken and also not securing some of our athletic fields, and then also upgrades in security. So I think these are some discussions we're having, but the list that Mr. Berardi put together, working with Sue, we're very much in tune with.
And I should add too, the intent of the fund is to be additive to the existing money that we already spent on our school capital. Because we acknowledge that we need to spend more, we need to try to catch up, and that's the advantage of these funds. But we also want the flexibility to make future decisions too, including being able to draw down on the fund and think through how we want to sort of manage our tax increases. And so we all know we're waiting from the MSBA to see what happens with that process. And we also know the MSBA wants and expects us to take care of our buildings and show that the
They
town
do.
is committed to doing the necessary repairs and maintenance and upkeep generally. So we hope that you will support the fund, and we know it's a lot and you need to think through it and probably want to see the other projects that we're on the cusp of revealing. And so once we can move out of executive session on that. So we did want to provide you with a preview and answer any, including any like huge questions that you have that might make us rethink our course right now.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Healy Dippold, Ms. Mar. Are there any questions for our select board representative, Mr. Carr?
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Mr. Kearney?
Yes, thank you for coming in. Thank you, Alan, for the meeting yesterday. I think there was some discussions on like, one of it was like, what's the security end of it? And the other was is the basic needs too.
Mhm.
So I guess there's this, which is set apart as the school facilities committee, which is 9 members. And there was some discussions on, they want to make sure that that money goes directly to the buildings. So the AC or something in those, where we were talking about security being more of the curbstone, like Dr. Sullivan alluded to.
The roads.
The roads, the asphalt that comes in, the missing sidewalk, as you probably see on the way out. There's a whole section that's missing there. So like we, that alone would probably take the whole fund away from us. So like we just, but Ellen had also mentioned that, and I think you alluded to it as well, saying that this is also, we're still gonna have those capital budget areas. So with that said, I think as a committee, we were looking at like almost spending that on security for 3 schools too. Like, we gotta remember that when we talk about $1.5 million for the schools, we're talking about 3 buildings. And the A13 came up with the fact that not only are we gonna debate if the high school's worth $40 million, there's still $30 million in our lower schools that are gonna need it, regardless if we're gonna.
When you say 40 million, you mean because the AI3 report?
Yeah,
had that number.
and also too, you know, we can, like you said, we can, some of that has already been anticipated off. However, we still gotta be mindful of the fact that the Osgood and the Deer Hill already need that money too. So like, I don't want to keep I don't want us to lose sight of that as a huge.
Yep.
Because the thing is too, is like, you know, I built 2 new houses. I lived in 2 new houses, and by the 15th year, AC was going, the kids' disposal was going, all the stuff's going. So that is clearly a concern of mine as well as the smaller schools. But to Dr. Sullivan's point, like right now, what we need is definitely to take care of the grounds itself, like solar crosswalks, like you see in Hingham. You'll go by a Hingham school and you'll see the solar crosswalks, so that they light up. Ours are the coming up here is boom, boom, boom. I mean, this signage is all over the place. So I think, like, I was happy to hear that maybe we could spend the 1.5 on the security issues and then try to go through capital for the other.
And what I would offer to Mr. Kearney, because we went into the select board meeting yesterday realizing that there were some concerns around paving and curbing. So we do have a road and sidewalk committee. And what they are analyzing are different paving needs, because we are proposing a road and sidewalk fund as well, which would be another tax increase. And that would be 212 for the average home. If we did an $800,000 road and sidewalk fund, in addition to our 200,000 in Chapter 90 money. So we're trying to spend $1 million a year on roads and sidewalks to really try to increase the infrastructure within Cohasset. And so we did ask Mr. Senior and Mr. Joyce, who is our town engineer, to take a look at the schools to see the paving needs and curbing, et cetera. So we could figure out the needs there and see how we could build those in.
That's awesome. Thank you. One other question is how with all this said, how how do we as a community or as a boards together, work together to get that message out there of what we're gonna do to get people to attend? Because this is really important stuff that needs to be moved forward. So I guess the question is, how do we work together to get these folks here? Yeah.
Well, we are planning on doing a community engagement plan, starting with our, core stakeholder committees. This is the first committee we're going to
This is
right
great.
now.
Yeah.
In terms of the school committee. But we would welcome, particularly if you all support the funds, whether it's roads and sidewalks, school, et cetera, we would welcome your support, including at forums and videos we're planning on doing. We were planning on trying to do a walkthrough of the schools to show the various needs, including the capital needs. So we are trying to formulate, we have a straw man right now, but to the extent anyone is interested, particularly formally as a committee or otherwise, participating in that community engagement, we have postcards that we're going to send. We're going to do forums. We're going to,
Facebook posts.
social media rollout.
We have almost a Hollywood style media blitz planned. I think, speaking for myself, this special town meeting is probably the most significant one that I can think of. And I've been here since 1966. So it's very significant for the town and for where we are today in the state we find ourselves in, where we want to be in 5 years and 10 years, and how we want to manage our infrastructure going forward. And it's very, very important for those of us who want to stay here for the rest of our lives, watch our children, grandchildren grow up here, to get to this town meeting. So, Mr. Carney, your point is very well taken. We understand it, and we would, once everything is articulated at our next meeting or the meeting after, we would be happy to come back. We would be happy to send a blurb to the superintendent's newsletter. We want to engage with the PSO and the CEF and get their support as vital organizations in this community. I mean, parents, there's 1,400 kids in the district. That's a lot of families. So it's very important that they understand that this is their town and these are the things we need to do right now. So it's Justin, who is our media director at Town Hall, has a very extensive, well thought out plan that as soon as we're ready to go, it's going to go.
So we're trying to work through a few last key pieces, including the long-term finance report that we intend to finalize hopefully within 2 weeks. And Mr. Dial is on that working group where we appreciate that there's many residents that are also going to have questions about the financial impact. And so we try to summarize that along with all of the associated information and data, including the punchline that notwithstanding everything that we're planning, we think and hope that there should still be space for significant investments at the schools, particularly with some of these funding mechanisms we're looking at that afford us the flexibility to make those investments in the future if that's the way we choose to proceed.
And we certainly would promote any advertisement of any capital need that we have here in a very transparent way. We've done walkthroughs before with the capital committee, typically do that every year, but to advertise those needs and to make sure the community understands the value of such a fund you're proposing, we would absolutely support that, work with Justin to do that.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Absolutely. Mr. Kearney, Mr. Leskey, do you have any questions?
Just a huge thanks for a very sort of clear and transparent and helpful presentation that hopefully anyone watching is also feeling educated and excited about what's to come. It feels like a very thoughtful path forward. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Healy, DePaul, Mrs. Marr. Please keep us posted as these things become more fully baked, more figures, and we know what we're talking about.
All right,
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. Thanks for all you
Thank
do.
I'm
sorry,
I gotta go
You too.
drive Jack home.
Miss you
real quick.
guys.
He just got out of the meeting.
Sure.
I'll be back.
Sure. So Mr. Kearney's excused at 6:37 p.m. Again, he will return, but we still have a quorum anyway with 3 voting members present. So we'll continue with the meeting, move right into the school update section, turning the meeting over to our superintendent of schools, Dr. Patrick Sullivan.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you. Well, as Vice Chair McClellan had indicated, we had a wonderful opening. I feel really lucky to be working in a district where the community and those who work here come together to make sure the start of school is special for our students. The degree of energy before school in our opening teacher days, which we'll get to in a moment, was palpable. And we, if someone's watching from home, we love your kids. And we really want to be there to support them and help them in every way we can. And that was in full display during the first days of school. So hopefully at home, your student came home after the first 2 days and was excited about the year to come. And if they weren't, hopefully it gets better soon. And if it doesn't, let us know. We're here to help you, and please contact the principal, contact the teacher directly if you can, and we'll make sure that we support your student. What we want to do, if it's okay, Vice Chair McClellan, is Dr. Scollins and I are going to combine our parts into one presentation. So this will actually take care of our academic initiatives updates also. That's fair to do.
Perfect. We love consolidation.
Super. So
Doctors.
talking a little bit about what we presented for the beginning of the year, and also what our theme is for the year, which is to follow your compass. That theme comes directly from the NEASC visit with our Vision of the Graduate, which was finding your compass. And as we move into the third year of our 3-year strategic plan, it makes sense to continue with that nautical theme of following your compass and really understanding what as a student, what your strengths and weaknesses are at this point in your academic and social emotional life, and for our staff to build support around them. So we did start, and I want to start here publicly by thanking everyone in our community, including our teachers, our technology staff, our food service workers, our ESPs, our administrative assistants, our bus drivers, our school nurses. It really takes a village to make such a wonderful school district tick. And we were very lucky to have some of these groups working over the summer to get our buildings prepared. I don't know that I've seen our buildings look better since I've been here. Tremendous job by our custodians, our facilities team, and our technology crew to get things ready. There's always things to work through. And of course, our teachers were preparing over the summer as well for the beginning. We had a lot of summer happenings. Go very quickly through this, but we have a beautiful new spot in our Deer Hill Innovations Commons. It's actually called the Susan B. McNamara Innovation Commons. And the school committee did approve naming it after Susan B. McNamara, who had been a great contributor to Cohasset Public Schools in many ways, including helping to found the CEF and PSO here in Cohasset. This is going to be a gorgeous space. We're just waiting for furniture at this point to come in, and that we would think will be in by the end of the month, maybe in October, at the latest, beginning of October. And we have many students helping. Again, there's our facilities in the corner, our custodials in the other corner, and it's going to be a lovely space. This, Mr. Kearney's not here to take some of the accolades for this, but he really helped to push this. And so thank you, Mr. Kearney, for your efforts. Also, Athletic Director Rotundi, everyone who worked to help create this beautiful fitness center for our students. And from what I was told, we went from having one of the, well, how do I say this?
Most outdated.
Yes, most outdated facility to having one of the best and on the South Shore in terms of what we offer our students. And it's just a lovely space. Dr. Scollins is not driving the bus anymore, but we did have her behind the wheel for a brief second. But
I was very excited to see that.
move.
It did not move.
But we have a new.
Much like the pigeon, Dr. Scott.
Exactly. We have a new fleet of buses that are in all of our buses. And under new lease, we have an electric bus coming, much to for the efforts of Ms. Bodell and the Alternative Energy Committee, but that took a village as well. We were expecting that in October. And then we had work, thanks to the generosity of the town and Capital Committee. We have a new vestibule at Osgood, which just enhances our security measures coming into the building so that we can have face-to-face interactions with anybody who enters before we allow someone into the building. We were always using the camera system, but this is a much more secure and basically it's the state-of-the-art way to handle school security coming in.
And in line with what we had at the other buildings.
It actually, absolutely, and it makes,
It was an
it
outlier.
standardizes our approach at all buildings. We also have new Raptor, it's called, Raptor technology. As you put your license in to enter the building, that actually changed from the lobby guard. Raptor bought lobby guard. So now we really have standardized approaches at all our buildings. So it's really nice. So excited. And I have a more updated picture in a second. This is Kindergarten Jumpstart, which was just wonderful. There, Ray is working with the kids to teach them about what it's going to be like on the school bus for the first time. Based on feedback I've received from kindergarten families, this was very positive, and it's a tribute to Principal Farrell and team. We had a lovely ice cream social. And you can see some of our National Honor Society students working, a lot of smiling faces. We had Dells and Nonas there. And we did have a teddy bear picnic. And I'm happy to say that all the teddy bears are healthy in Cohasset. So as you can see, Principal Farrell and her son worked to check out all the teddy bears. Nice event. And thank you to the families who came to that. This is the Susan B. McNamara, I should say the top left, and the other picture, a big, larger one to the right, that was the Susan B. McNamara Innovation Commons at Deer Hill, the ceremony commemorating it. And then down below, a couple of additional activities. We had some reading activities happening at Osgood over the summer. And then the far left bottom corner was Popsicles with Principal. And that was nice. Always a nice moment for anybody coming into Osgood. We had our annual summer cookout, which is summer staff cookout. So all of our new teachers who were in the midst of the teacher induction program and our summer staff. And you can see we put our new director of evaluation and curriculum, Rock, working in the corner there, cooking the burgers. Did a nice job. And I won't say you could smell what the Rock's cooking, but I know you were thinking that, Mr. McClellan. And we move to the next one. We have a orientation. This is sixth grade orientation, but we have lovely orientations in ninth grade as well. And I mentioned the kindergarten ones and those at Deer Hill. We had some training with our new math program in the middle school, Luster to Math. We'll be talking about that more and providing clarity for our families regarding that program shortly.
And then it talks about in record time, Mr. Kearney returns, 6:45. Welcome back.
And our sports. Were your ears ringing, Mr. Kenny? I was praising the fitness room.
Oh, great.
Your
great.
efforts, so
Yeah.
thank you. And then our sports started and are underway, and we're very excited. We had a leadership retreat. This was a really great sort of icebreaker activity where our athletic director, Steve Rotundi, organized us making ships out of various materials that we put out on Cohasset Bay to see who would win. I won't say whose, but two of them made it to the end. One of them sunk, but I won't say who.
Sorry.
I'm working on everything.
Anyway, great. It was a great, and I really want to thank our leadership team. You know, we have obviously Dr. Scollins. For those of you who don't know, we have Director of Student Services, Barbara Sawanka. I was deputized. She was, sorry. And Director of Evaluation.
It's usually the spot she's sitting in.
I know. It threw me for a second.
And sort of similar color hair.
Yes, it threw me. I apologize. But our Director of Evaluation, Curriculum and Evaluation, Rock Roberts, our Director of MECO, Elisa Gittens-Carl, a Principal of Joseph Osgood, Lisa Farrell, Principal of Deer Hill School, Alexander Sullivan, Principal of Cohasset Middle School, John Mills, Assistant Principal of Cohasset Middle School, Dr. Kate Salas, Principal of Cohasset High School, Brian Scott, Assistant Principal of Cohasset High School, Tara Noyes, and our athletic director, Steve Rotundi. So I just want to make sure I thank them for all they do. We lost a picture here. Interesting. All right, well, we lost a picture of our new staff, but you can see the new staff in the corner there. And poor Courtney wasn't there, so now she totally stands out because we lost the picture in this slide, but yeah, it's strange, but it's okay. But they were a wonderful group,
Yep,
and I'm gonna let Dr. Scoggins in a minute talk about them, but just to show you who we have new, we have from Osgood, Caitlin Conrad and special education. Deer Hill, we have a new third grade teacher, Megan Sandblom, new fourth grade teacher, Taylor Benoit. Benoit. Shauna DiCato, grade 5. Mairead Roach, she told me it rhymes with parade, and that press forever saved me in saying her name. Courtney Sullivan, special education, and Allison Varney, our new math specialist at Deer Hill. Again, thanks to the generosity of Deer Hill, we were able to, of the school committee, we were able to add an additional 0.5 math specialist. Ellie Collins, grade 6 math. Caitlin McCormack, our new Spanish teacher. Jill Weller, who was actually here last year for a bit, but didn't have a chance to do this induction. Catherine Yindra, grade 6 science. And at the high school, Keith Grassman, French. Madeline Nielsen, math and computer science. And Dave Richardson, who was here about 5 years ago, has come back as a long-term sub for a leave of absence. We're really happy to have Dr. Richardson keep back with us. And then George Stamides, who's our special education teacher at the high school. And they are probably the most experienced collectively group that we've brought in new to the district since I've been here.
Yeah.
And really have provided a lot. And I'll let Dr. Scoggins talk a little bit about what you did with teacher orientation.
Yeah, it was.
And Miss Conrad is, I think, not
she is
too
a
distant past graduate of Cohasset
She's a
Schools. So
Cohasset
it's kind of
graduate. Yes, she is.
2019, 20?
Yeah, something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, pretty
nice.
pretty
like a
recent.
year
And right now a
She
celebrity.
was in Situate.
A celebrity with the Osgood staff,
Yes.
because they love her because, of course, she was a wonderful student. So,
And she also did the jump start.
yes.
So anyway, so we're thrilled that she is with us. It was a great 3 days. We do a 3-day orientation with them. I will have to say it was the most comfortable group ever. I always have Marilyn do a breakfast for them. The teachers never go near because they're usually really new, really green, and they're petrified to eat in front of anybody. This group went right over to the breakfast, and I said, "Oh, we're good. We are so good." So we do a lot of work that we bring in technology. They all get their laptops, so there's a lot of making sure some of the nuts and bolts of what happens. But we also do a lot around team building. We do work around educator evaluation to make sure that everybody understands the process and really understands the rubric that we all use as teachers and understanding all of that. So it was a wonderful day. We did a couple of days. We also then take them on a tour of town, and I take them to J.J.'s for ice cream, which they absolutely love. And then we have a celebration breakfast for them on that last day, and then they go off with their departments or their principals. But one of the things we talk about are, hopes and dreams, and that students and staff often have the very same hopes and dreams for when they're starting school. And so I had them do this exercise, and I just thought they were really wonderful. Kind of where they were when they were starting, and their hopes for their students. They want them to feel valued. They want them to feel loved. They want them to feel heard. There was themes going all the way through around really making sure that they feel connected and safe and happy in their building. So it was wonderful. So it's probably a couple of my favorite days.
And I can't even say how pleased I am at those teams. We hire through teams now. What great job they did. I
Phenomenal
mean,
hire.
these are the top candidates in every single one of these positions.
Yep.
So we're really thrilled.
Yep. Very lucky.
And then I did talk about, and it's good for the community to remember. I'll go through this really quickly, but I'm very proud of our mission, particularly the first line, which says Cohasset Public Schools places students first, and guiding our vision, which is to empower students to improve communities. And you can see our compass points and our core values, but all of this comes together and really sets the district plan. And this is something I emphasize with staff, and it's good for us to remember this at the beginning of the year too, that the strategic plan guides the school committee goals, which of course the school committee guides my goals. And then that guides the leadership goals and the teacher goals, collaboratively working together, which ends up creating student focus for the year. So it's a really nice tool for articulating our school improvement plans. And then, of course, all of this is looked for in our administrative and teacher evaluation, and they're held accountable for following these plans.
And we're required to give all new teachers a certain amount of time in educator evaluation, but outside of that, it's so important to make sure, like you just said, that we're all moving in the same direction and that we all have an understanding of that process. So it's
Yes.
really important.
And it is, and one of the points we made with the staff is that we really believe in a degree of teacher autonomy. And I believe that with the leadership, but we have to be moving in the same direction. And that, I think, creates stronger teams. And again, I won't belabor this, but you can see our mission here. Mission is what we do. And, we're providing optimal teaching and learning environment, and you can see how we're doing that. And our core values, placing students first, continual personal growth and achievement, creating an optimum teaching and learning environment, strong school community engagement, and speaking of our past presentation, the utilization of resources to support the teaching, learning, and leading, making sure that we can optimize our resources to do so. And our vision, again, is what we aspire to be. And this line, empowering students to improve communities, really, it encompasses the social emotional balance and the academic scholarship that are necessary in students to make a difference in the world. And that can mean different things for different kids and different people, but it's empowering to try to improve the world around them. And then again, I talked about our theme for the year, Follow Your Compass. Our major strategic initiatives, and this is what the school committee can expect to see over and over again, is we're really going to work at examining and evaluating our curriculum from a vertical and horizontal perspective. This is the year of real deep curriculum work across the district. We do curriculum every year, but this is a year to really get our documents together, have front-facing documents out to the public, and to be able to make sure we have we've had a lot of new programs we've adopted. We just need to put this, a lot of these pieces on paper. And so we're going to be doing that. And then also developing our benchmark assessments. Those are our assessments that we can point to show student growth and achievement. Speaking of student growth and achievement, although I don't speak of these measures all that often, I did share with the school committee that Cohasset High School was voted by USA World and News Report the top high school on the South Shore. That was really great. And also about 660th out of, I think it was 50,000 high schools in the country. And that's a wonderful achievement as well. Very high up in Massachusetts. So some of these measures are starting to take hold according to that particular guide. We're going to analyze our data based on MTSS interventions. That's the system we have in place to help students who might be struggling with something, whether it be social emotional or academic. We need to collect data that will help us drive and be more formal with the data. This is why we have part of the reason we have a ROC on board is to help guide us in some of that. But we're really going to look at what we need to advocate for to make our district better based on this data, how we can help students piece by piece with that. And then, of course, developing and implementing a plan for increased student voice. This is a big part of what we're doing right now, and for the implementation of culturally responsive practices. Speaking of that, we had a presentation on student voice to start off the year, and I had a kind of a sit-down panel in front of, we were very casual. You can see I'm casual because we had a lot of activities that were happening that were challenged by choice with staff. But I had this panel of students who spoke so eloquently about what works for them in classrooms to help reflect who they are, and about some practices we should avoid as staff that might alienate, and we may not know that we're alienating them with that. And it was very well taken by the staff. I think it was lovely for our staff at the elementary level to see some of these students and the amazing people they're clearly becoming. And this was a special moment. They received a standing ovation for it. And we'll check in with these students moving forward. And talked a bit about this continuum of voice. And I spoke a bit about this particular graphic where, you know, it kind of looks at moving students from expression to leadership and encouraging student voice. And this is some of what we challenge staff to do. Expression is where students offer their opinions, they answer questions, and they create personal learning profiles. Moving to consultation, where students actually take the surveys, provide input and feedback, share their personal learning profiles, and work on that profile with their teachers. To participation, where students attend activities with a role in decision-making and articulate action steps to meet learning goals. To activism, where students identify problems, generate solutions, and advocate for change inside and outside of school. And finally, to leadership, where students guide groups as leaders of change, co-plan and make decisions, and accept responsibilities for their outcomes. And our students really modeled that very well for the staff during that presentation. And these are just some of what we're challenging staff to consider in terms of student voice and social emotional learning. Won't go over them, but you can see these are very thoughtful, introspective questions that teachers can take back, reflect on, and see if they can improve in their classroom. And these are just some ways and some strategies that we're going to be coming back to throughout the year to make sure our staff is doing that. We've been working hard over the last 3 years to increase student voice. And I won't go through these, but you can read them as they're on the screen. And hopefully you've seen some of this throughout the district. And this is the high school. You can see a lot of reciprocal opportunities between high school students and elementary students. Bless you. And you can see our middle school working really hard to increase student voice, including increasing the activities that are involved, that are offered. Deer Hill, you can see what we're working on at Deer Hill. Osgood. And then some of the things we have planned, you can see at the high school, incorporating grade level service learning opportunities, growing out independent learning opportunities, also creating a more formalized way of recognizing students for growth socially and academically. And then you can see at the middle school, everyone is really looking at implementing some sort of student recognition program to advocate for student voice. At Deer Hill, again, growing out the student advisory group. I'm growing out my student advisory group. And at Osgood and district-wide. So student voice is a big part of our plan. And the next thing I want to make sure that you understand we're doing is we're really looking at our authentic learning opportunities. And what does authentic learning mean? I love this definition. It's an instructional approach that allows students to explore, discuss, and meaningfully construct concepts and relationships in contexts that involve real-world problems and projects that are relevant to the learner. Possibly more than anything, in the next 3 years, I see Cohasset Public Schools moving in this direction. And we're already doing this. And you can see this in some of these images. We have the financial literacy fair at Cohasset High School, second graders investigating salt marsh minnows and intertidal life, Cohasset High School students presenting their civics action plan and analysis of local watershed data to determine water quality and the health of Cohasset Harbor, CMS French students using their language skills in real life by ordering treats in French at our local Cohasset Bakery, French Memories. Thank you, French Memories. The amazing opportunities throughout the district provided through our partnerships with Holly Hill Farm, our diversity fair and mosaic initiatives, our collaboration with CEF, including Deer Hill phys ed students learning about bike safety and maintenance at PE, our music students meeting with professional musicians, our civics and sustainability seminar and opportunities, just a few examples of what we're doing currently and what will be growing in the future. And I'll let Dr. Scoggins talk a little bit about Challenge by Choice. That is actually Principal Mills, that is not Photoshopped. I went to the top of it this,
You're in there.
this
We'll show
year,
a
so,
picture of you too.
I'll let you talk about what we did with our staff.
So the first 2 days, we have our staff all together, which is just a really wonderful way to kick off. And so this year we decided to really be thinking about how to do things a little bit differently. So I actually spoke with Torrin Sweeney and then Stephanie Moriarty, both department chairs, and said, I want to do something that's really active. I want it to be a learning experience for our teachers so that then they can take it back into the classroom. So I said, everybody, please dress comfortable. There was a little bit of angst because people were concerned. I said, don't worry, there's something for everyone. And so all of these people, and I want to thank all of them, volunteered their time and coordinated these activities. So we did Project Adventure, which all of the people in that top part are all trained in. And so these were the kind of the low, they call the low elements. So everything was low except for the wall. But we had Ron Ford and Deb Beal, Kevin Dykes down from Osgood. We had Brett Humans from Deer Hill, Al LaFontaine from the high school, and Kevin McGowan guidance, and Mike Pimentel from the middle school, and then Torrin, who helped out. And these were all activities that we had for all the teachers to participate in. And then because not everyone wants to do some of those challenges, we had yoga and mindfulness meditation with Nina Berkowitz and Abby Aronston. And then we had Zen Tangle, which was Laura Swartz and Lisa Shagru, art teachers, who really took people through how can you do mandala drawing and meditation, and how does that work in helping out your students. And then Stephanie Moriarty and Sarah Anthony had Wear Your Why. So we had a meetings opportunity, and I'm wearing mine, it's hope. And so we asked people to think about what was their word for the year, and a way for them to memorialize that by making a bracelet. So it was really fun, and we set it up and had a QR code for all of them to be able to know where to go. And so they had a blast, and here's the pictures. And it was really enjoyable to watch the laughter and the teamwork and how they kind of pulled together and tried everything. And then we even had, for those that were a little worried about some of the activities, over to the left, you can see Torrin Sweeney, and then at the bottom, these are actually things, these are all done with the students, by the way. These are all activities that all of the PE teachers do. And those cards there are for, it's actually a team building activity where you have to take a set of puzzle pieces that are just images, and you have to make a 5x5 square puzzle. And so it was really fun to watch them. They were wishing for children because they said they think a little bit faster than they do and could make the connections, but it was very enjoyable. And so they did those pieces, and then we had the climbing wall. When I walked in, I said to Kevin, I said, how many people? I said, 5, 6. He's like, that's what I'm thinking. We had over 20 people do the wall, including our superintendent, who's up on the top. I will say that Devin Gerard.
One giant leap.
Exactly.
Just kidding.
It was really fun. So Devin Gerard is petrified. She won't look out of her second floor window, but she decided she was going to do that and was so thrilled she did. And then Meg Stillman, kindergarten teacher, both kindergarten teachers there. Meg Stillman, she said it was the best thing she ever did. She'd never done for her life and decided to do it. So people really challenged themselves. And then you can see here with some of the mindfulness and wellness, there's there was standing room only in both the areas for the bracelets and for the drawing, but only got one shot of yoga, but that whole room was filled. I just didn't want to use a flash and disturb anybody. But you can also see we had people in the fitness room. We had that open too. So Al was down there, and I think this is Amelia Donovan. I can't see who the other person is there. But they were thrilled to try out some of the equipment. So it was a really great day, and we got some nice feedback about what happened. We also do our annual Alice training. We had Detective Lieutenant Lopes, Detective Hall in the back, and then, of course, our school resource officer, Taylor, going through our process and protocols so that everyone knows exactly what's expected. Because the more we practice, the more we do it, right? It's muscle memory. And then on the second day was mostly building based. However, we did have Julia Campion come in from Riverside Trauma Center, also Mindwise Innovation. And Google them, but she did a whole 2-hour presentation, and it was really interactive on the toll of working with trauma, understanding self-care as an ethical imperative. So it was about them and about their response and the toll of the work we do, but also then how do you then use
what you've learned, and how do you use those tools within the classroom for your students. So I sent out a survey and I got some amazing feedback from the staff around how they felt about these 2 days. They felt that they had so many things to take back with them into their classroom. They felt like they had time to be them. They loved the opportunity to be able to be with their colleagues and work together. And the power behind the panel was extraordinary. They said, a lot of them said that was a highlight for them to hear what the students had to say. And so I asked, kind of, what resonated with them, how are you going to use this back in your classroom? I asked them for all the activities that we did. And so one of the people responded to the panel and said, my word for this year is listen. I plan to spend a lot of time listening to students, how they think, feel, and what they need to help them continue to grow. I thought that kind of summarized what a lot of people were saying, that it gave them a perspective, and they were so impressed by the students, but the students were not afraid to share. And I think that was really powerful for them. They also talked about not only the connection piece, but also if they thought, if something was being said in a class, they really were encouraging teachers to stop right there and please call out that behavior and have a discussion about it so that we don't do it again. So it was really, really powerful. And so great couple of days, I thought. Yeah, it was good.
And you have your professional development calendar in front of you, but just so people at home can see it.
And this is just this is an overview. A lot of this is building based or content based because we have so many initiatives. You can see the first 3 days were the Institute for our new teachers. And then the opening days, which you saw what we did. We also provided lunch. Marilyn and her team did an amazing job as always with lunch. They couldn't say enough about it. And of course, we have known as ice cream. Our new teachers thought that they got ice cream every day here because the first day, the middle school was having their orientation. So I sent them out to the ice cream truck. The second day, the student orientation. The second day, we went to JJ's. I took them on a bus there. And then when they came for the first day, they're like, oh my gosh, we got no ice cream again. So
They seemed very disappointed the second day.
they were. They're like, where's the ice cream? And I said, well, enjoy your quiche. So, and then you can see in September, that will be a data day. It's a half day of professional development, but all our assessments will be done at that point, our benchmark assessments and other assessments that we do for that first part of the year. So we'll be having a data meeting then, which I think will be really helpful. Plus we have mandatory training they all must do, which includes mandated reporter training. And they'll have time to complete that. In October, we have a full day. And it will be literacy at the elementary level for those that teach reading, but we'll be really working in teams.
So Dr. Scoggins, is this available? This
It's on the website.
So
It's on
can
the
we,
website.
just because I want to be mindful,
Yes.
I want to get to Mr.
Go right
Walker's part of the meeting. So I know we have a disposal. No,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to,
Agree.
I don't want people waiting too long for that.
Sure.
And we have disposal of materials item
Yeah.
after this. So how many more?
No, no, long. I'll move. In fact, just to show you, you can
Right,
see the
so
fall assessments.
Just so you see the windows, but you'll get information from your principals so that you know exactly what's going on. And then we just have one other piece I'll add to that. So we always send home a family report for the iReady data as well as the
Mhm.
DIBELS. This year we'll be adding a component because we have requirements around dyslexia and screening. So that will be added to the family letters that go home. So families be notified
Yeah.
in early October. So.
And just really quickly, just a couple of shots from back to school was a great start. I won't even narrate them, but you can see the rain. It was raining, but just the wonderful students coming in. And yeah, I can't think of a more happier person to greet them than
First thing.
you can just see it. Just so much joy in these. Go back here. A lot of happy faces. Bless you, it's coming in. Holding signs. Nice welcoming. crowd. We had a bus jammed, the parking brake jammed, and we walked them down. We were all there greeting them, and this whole team walked the kids, the kindergartners down to us. Good. It was nice. The whole middle school there in the right corner. That's it. So we just thought it was, I apologize, couple more. So we got the food, we have great food from our gardens being served in our rooms. And then, of course, we have some lovely students coming in. We had a great superintendent's coffee today. Thank you for everybody who came to that. And then our open houses, I should just mention that they're on the 19th, the 21st, 27th, and 28th respectively. And you'll be hearing more about them from your principals. And that is it.
Okay, thank you, doctors. Thanks for a great start to the 23-24 academic year. I want to move right into the disposal of surplus materials, which is next on the agenda. This is a request put in from the principal of our Joseph Osgood School, Lisa Farrell. She's requesting for the disposal of certain items that are outdated related to the ELA curriculum, valuing under $5,000. Unless there's any discussion, I would simply entertain a motion and a second on this. Is there a motion to approve the disposal of these materials as presented by Principal Farrell? Motion's been made by Mr. Carr. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Leskey. All in favor, voice vote, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion unanimously carries. Dr. Sullivan, you can please instruct Principal Farrell. She's allowed to dispose of those items.
We sure will.
Thank you very much. I think that's I only had one, D1 was the only agenda item on disposal materials. So it's only just that one section, right? That one request.
Ms. Owen, I believe that's it, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and before we move into Mr. Wonka's section, I just wanted to note, because during your presentation, Dr. Sullivan, you mentioned U.S. News and World Report review or listing of schools. And just to further clarify what you said, there wasn't actually maybe some would have interpreted it this way. It wasn't actually a South Shore listing. It was just
No.
of the schools on the South Shore, of the districts in the South Shore.
Yeah.
We were the first one listed.
And I only say
So-
that because they're, again.
It's a relevant region for us.
It's one measure,
Right.
but people often cite it as a measure that when we're not there. So I just started saying we're there.
It's tremendous accolade, just sort of,
There was.
not looking for problems.
Yeah, you can look at the Massachusetts districts and you can see where we are.
It's worth a review. Okay, so with no further ado, moving to a teaching and learning section, and turning the meeting over to our Director of Student Services, Mrs. Barbara Saranka. Mr. Saranka, thank you.
I believe you have the power.
I have the power to share.
Yes, you do.
All right. So it's nice to be here, everyone. Thank you very much. And let's see if I can get this going. So I'm Barbara Saranka. I am the Director of Student Services, particularly for the new families who are out there. I want you to know that about 3/4 of my job really focuses on special education, but there are other portions of my job that are, kind of larger and more encompassing. And let's face it, everything's a student service. So there are a lot of things that I kind of have my hand in, including MTSS, 504s, nursing, sometimes busing, title investigations and civil rights, so on and so forth. I have kind of 4 items that I want to discuss tonight, and kind of proportionally, one of them is not about special education and the other 3 are. So we'll start with the one that is not about special education. This is actually a showing of a letter that went out to the entire district, all families. And what this letter does is it talks about what Dr. Sullivan referred to earlier as the MTSS system, the multi-tiered system of supports. And it guides you through and explains what MTSS is, as well as the different tiers. What is important in this is that you understand, and some of the following slides are really going to break this down and show this to you nicely, that all students really do participate in Tier 1 of MTSS, in the sense that all students are able to receive what they need at kind of a very basic level through their classroom teachers and through their differentiated instruction. And then it takes us through and it talks about some other tiers and services through the MTSS system. What is really important to understand is that while there certainly are tiers, it's not necessarily a lateral kind or a linear kind of a system. And it also is a little bit of a two-pronged system that I will explain. But this letter, in fact, went out to every family in the district as an opening letter and explaining this. And if someone out there feels that they did not receive it or cannot find it or whatever, they can reach out to the Office of Student Services and we will make sure that you get it. But this is kind of a nice breakdown and a very quick breakdown for you. The letter you can read yourselves. But what this multi-tiered system of support really is a comprehensive continuum of evidence-based systematic practices to support a rapid response to students' needs. And we regularly observe and facilitate data-based instructional decision-making. And all students, regardless of any background, are eligible to receive Tier 1, 2, and 3 services. Tier 1, as I said earlier, is really a whole class data-driven, differentiated core instruction that all students participate in. Sometimes what we see is that within that, for short periods of time, sometimes for longer periods of time, there are students who need some more targeted instruction, perhaps further differentiated or perhaps small group instruction. And that is facilitated within the classroom as well, but it is much more targeted. This is the difference right here between MTSS as a process that drives our entire school district and an MTSS team. There is an MTSS team at every school. And when students are starting to experience difficulties, which might lead them to perhaps need some more of this small group targeted instruction that we're talking about, their name may come to the MTSS team and they may be discussed. And usually on the team is a principal, someone from guidance, a school psychologist, sometimes a team chairperson, so on and so forth, reading and math specialist. Discuss how they see the student, particular ways that our district curriculum accommodation plan is being used and the student's response to that, and what else could we put in place to support the student. Should your child come to that, you will be receiving some outreach from that school, probably both in the form of a phone call and a letter. There are students who receive some targeted supports that might not go through the MTSS team process, simply because we really strive to meet the needs of all students. Our math interventionists or reading interventionists push into the classrooms and might notice a small little gap, provide some targeted instruction for a couple of days, a short period of time, right there within the classroom. And it's just a natural way that we do business. So there are two kind of levels or ways that we can really support kids, if you will. Tier 3 is a little bit more additionally targeted and intensive support if students perhaps are not responding the way we would have hoped to a Tier 1 intervention. And that's because we circle back in those MTSS teams to revisit students and make sure that students are in fact making the progress we want them to make. Do they need to continue? Are they able to kind of be pulled off of that and move forward on their own? Or do they need a higher level of service? These slides just talk all about how inclusive practices are part of Tier 1 and they're really for all students. And it's about providing a scaffolded but high quality curriculum with differentiated instruction to give all students what they need to learn. Tier 2 occurs in addition to the Tier 1 and usually in small groups and perhaps extra opportunities to practice certain skills. Tier 3, more explicit focused interventions, sometimes individuals, sometimes in even smaller groups, not necessarily, but sometimes at this point in time, we start discussing special education and initial evaluations. But the Tier 3 is pretty fluid. And we follow a universal design for learning for all students. That UDL is a framework that reduces barriers in instruction. It provides the appropriate accommodations for supports for all students. It allows for high achievement expectations for all students. And they are going to be able to demonstrate that through multiple means of engagement, representation, and action and expression. We always talk about the how, the why, the what, and the how of learning. So that is kind of my general education piece of my position as the Director of Student Services, and an overview, as quick as it was, for MTSS for all of you. And there's certainly information about MTSS on our website and on my particular page as well. But what I would like to move into now is my letter that went out to the parents of students with special needs, introducing our new school year, my welcome, sharing with you kind of what I see as my focus areas this year. And that is that partnering with students and parents to make the best decisions, using data from curriculum and assessments to help drive those decisions, and to continue developing our programming to meet the changing needs of our students. That is always an ongoing part for us. I also, in this letter, identify all of the staff who are present at each of the individual schools, and there are just a couple of staff members that I want to share out with you. I know that Dr. Scollins and Dr. Sullivan talked about our new staff a little bit, but if we were to look at the Joseph Osgood School, you can see there that we have doubled our preschool offerings, and that in addition to Michelle Joyce, Kim Kirker, originally from Deer Hill, has transferred and is now one of our preschool teachers. So that is very exciting for us. Also at the at the Joseph Osgood, we have Caitlin Conrad, our new grade 2 special education teacher. Marina LeBrew is an occupational therapist who was with us last year. This year, her time has been increased, and her role has encompassed taking our partial inclusion programs, which are our higher need programs, and being the occupational therapist to those programs, so that in the event, because some of those students do track through programs all the way through until grade 12, not all of them do, but some of them do, and she can follow that track with them and really provide that consistent therapy and set of eyes all the way through from the Osgood to the Deer Hill to the middle school to the high school. And she's very involved in the high school program that we have there, the Ames program, in terms of transition type activities. So that was a really nice way to be able to utilize her services better. At the Deer Hill School, we have Courtney Sullivan as our new IELC teacher, Mairead Roach as our grade 5 special education teacher. You can see Marina there again as the occupational therapist for the ILC. Kim Vila joined us last year as our physical therapist, but partway through the year, so I wanted to give her a little shout out there. At the middle school, again, Jill Weller had joined us last year. And you can see that I have delineated there that Jill Weller, as a teacher of the TLC program, we're very excited and proud to say that we've been working very hard on developing therapeutic learning opportunities for our students. It really is a therapeutic learning program. Now, we're a very small district. It is the focus, and just has been since we brought Mrs. Weller on board for the middle school with Jill Weller. That is not to say that every single student she services participates in the Therapeutic Learning Center. She has a larger cohort of students than that. However, she does have a group of students for whom really her primary focus with them is to look at the health and or social emotional needs and or disabilities of the students, and really approach their access to their education with teachers through that lens. Does she also, of course, facilitate excellent education with other students with special needs? Yes, she does. But we are continuing to grow therapeutic programming. We really feel like we are at a place where we can say we have it. And so I just wanted to explain that a little bit clearer to our families.
And Ms. Salonga, just so everyone knows, we're very transparent with families about any type of programming we're offering your students. That's something that is really crucial to us. So that communication piece is in place. So,
Definitely,
yes, but we do have people wearing multiple hats
we do,
because we're a small district.
yes. At Cohasset High School, we welcome George Stamides as our Ames program teacher. And Nick Sullivan, just to kind of partner with Jill Weller there, is our high school liaison / our TLC program teacher. And you can see it's a little bit clearer, he's wearing 2 hats there, but they both do. But that is in fact our listing of teachers in the Department of Special Education. We also have Marie Burke, who is our EL teacher. And again, she came on board with us last year, and I just kind of wanted to give her a little shout out as well. Not wearing my hat in special education there, but continuing as the Office of Student Services with that. A couple other things that I really wanted to talk about, and I can stop my share now. One of them is our CPAC, which is our Special Education Parents Advisory Council. I have been speaking with our co-presidents and what we are planning for the month of September, and you will be hearing a date on this, is like last year, we had a very good response last year to our first September meeting of CPAC was really a meet and greet coffee. And we're looking forward to doing that again for the month of September. And it really is a plug to please come and join us. We like as many voices as we can get at CPAC. I think CPAC last year really did grow, which I was very excited about. We'd like to see that continue this year. So, you know, I will tell you, Sarah Davis and Allison Bryan are the people you can reach out to if you are interested. You do not have to. You can reach out to me, or when something comes out, which you will be seeing around a CPAC meeting, certainly just show up and we are happy to have you and welcome you and have you join our CPAC meetings as often or as little as you can. It is a Special Education Parents Advisory Council, but we did partner last year with the PSO to do some presentations, which we really, you know, enjoyed doing. We had all of the principals come for an MTSS presentation. We had general ed and special education parents there and could really talk through that process as I wore the student services hat there. And that was a wonderful thing. So we're looking forward to even more of that. So again, I welcome you to come out and join, and it will be, you know, obviously posted in our newsletters once we have a date and time for our first coffee. It will also be posted because I have a posting that connects on Facebook with Cohasset 143, and parents can see it there. So you don't necessarily have to be a part of special education already to see that. You can see it in multiple places and be able to join and meet with us. And finally, my last area really is that I wanted to talk a little bit about, again, my focus areas for this year. As I said, one of them really is this continuing program development. I'm really proud of some of the things we've been able to do in terms of having a specialized reading teacher at the Deer Hill, expanding our pre-K at the Osgood, bringing co-teaching PD to the Osgood, and our therapeutic learning programs to the middle school and high school, but continuing to look at our students who are coming in and expand and analyze our programming to best meet their needs and help that drive our budget in terms of what do we need to really provide to the students of Cohasset what we need here in town. And we continue to work very hard on that. There is a new IEP rolling out, and we are adopting the new IEP in the 24-25 school year. We are using this as the year to train our staff on that. My 2 team chairs and I are going to a DESE training in October to help us train the staff and roll that out. We already spent.
Can you explain just what you meant by new IEP?
Yes, so the current actual format of the IEP, the individualized education plan that students with special needs receive to talk about their area of disability, their goal and focus areas that they're going to work on, and the objectives that are going to help them get to achieve those, is undergoing a revamp through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And a new format is being rolled out. There are a couple of early adopter schools across the Commonwealth. Most schools found it more advisable to participate in the trainings and in some of the feedback sessions, which we are also doing, and roll out the new IEP format with the district and with the families in the 24-25 school year. My team chairs and I have already done a deep dive into what the new IEP looks like, because we do have the form and have some of our own department PD trainings set up. We're going to wait and go and actually do the train the trainer from DESE before we start that. But it's going to take, a lot of our department meetings this year and a lot of our time and energy. And we're really very excited to be able to roll it out in a very thoughtful manner that will give our teachers practice with it this year so that next year can really roll out seamlessly. I have to say, in keeping with kind of our mission this year, there is a lot of student and parent voice in the new IEP. And it's not drastically different in the sense of, what we need to provide for students. We always need to legally provide for students. But some of the parts of it are flipped a little bit so that students' transition ideas, students' voice and students' wants and needs drive the IEP from the get-go, which is, really the way it's supposed to go. So we're very excited about that.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Wonk, does that conclude your report?
It does.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Wonk? Mr. Dial? Excuse me, Mr. Carr.
If you had a summary sheet on the IEP changes, just something we could take a look at your convenience, that'd be wonderful.
Okay,
Not the whole thing, but just sort of the big points of it all.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Is that it, Mr. Carr? Thank you, Mr. Carr. Karen?
Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your awesome staff. I do want to ask just the CPAC meeting, when is the date and time on that?
The coach, co-presidents and I have not yet specified a date and
Okay.
time.
Okay,
We
to be
typically-
announced?
It is to be announced. We
Okay.
typically have them on Thursdays,
Okay,
but we're still looking at which Thursday.
Mr. Kenny, is that it?
that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Ms. Leskey, and I'm going in alphabetical order, that's why I keep on being last.
That's great. I like being
Okay,
last,
okay.
actually.
Okay.
I just had a quick question about informing parents. I understand that if the child goes through to the MTSS team, that parents are informed at that point, but it sounds like children can also be at level 2 without going to the team. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are parents informed at that point?
I believe.
Yeah, I
Well,
think it's a
It
little,
depends.
I know, it's a little interesting. If it's a short term, because the reading specialist is in there and they're grabbing groups,
Mhm.
that may not necessarily, it's actually really probably more of tier 1 when that's happening. But if the reading specialist or the math specialist is actually going to pull that student out,
Yeah.
then they'll be notified. But there's a lot of
Yeah.
push, and we're trying to do as much push in as possible. Because sometimes you have students that, need a little extra, that would need some support, but then you may have a child or two who in that one particular concept need extra help, so we just scoop them in. It's us using our resources as best as possible, and so
And
we're
that's
doing a
just
lot of
really,
work.
that's
with
just
that.
meeting students where they are
Yeah,
in
yeah.
a tier 1 setting.
Yeah, but if they're getting pulled out, yes. It would
If they're
absolutely
leaving the
be
classroom,
Yeah.
but if they're
Yeah.
getting assistance from a special educator, but because there might be children who actually are in a tier 3 or on an IEP who are getting that type of service, and this other child would benefit from that, and it's efficient to do so.
And it could be for a week
It
or
would
two. They just
technically
have-
be-
Right, let's say they're doing, I don't know, what concept it might be around geometry or something. Like that child just needs a little extra support. Then you just kind of pull the rein. So we're trying to get all students and.
And we're talking about not just special educators, but also like, our
a
reading
specialist,
interventionists,
Yeah.
our math interventionists.
Yeah.
But let's pretend, for example, we have a co-taught model between a general educator and a special educator, and a special education teacher were to take a small group of students. They would not necessarily all be students on IEPs. They would just be people who could benefit from whatever, and some of the students on IEPs might be with a general educator in a small group for,
Right. And we have the
because we
additional
want to
math.
just meet the needs of all students.
Right, and we have the additional math this year. We have those 2.5 positions will be more interventionists. And so it's allowing us to tweak our model a little bit so that we can work with more students, but also have more time in the classroom, because that's really where you want it.
But then there are students who are receiving really timed and tracked plan
Mhm.
to provide them, and all of those families are notified.
Yes.
So, but in the course of general teaching, as you know, there's certain kids are gonna struggle a little bit with one concept, and that might be, go over here and do that, and then, but if it becomes a regular need, then you're.
Or if it ever turns into, as Dr. Scott said, kind of a pull-out outside the classroom.
That's
Then we're looking at something above and beyond a best teaching
Right,
practice.
so a child could come home and say, oh, I worked with McDonald, the reading specialist today. That could happen, but they wouldn't necessarily.
Our folks wear a lot of hats and help out
Yeah.
a lot of kids, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're, receiving the formalized service.
I think I have two reasons for asking the question. One is making sure that parents are receiving
Sure.
information about
Absolutely.
their children, but two,
Definitely.
because the school is working so hard to provide what children need, it's almost a little bit of good press for the schools in the district to say, hey, just a quick note to let you know, this is not a red flag or a problem, but we're really on top of your child's progress and where your
That's
child is struggling, and just sort of increasing just an opportunity to increase communication with families around how the school really is carefully looking at the students and providing them with what they think the student needs at a particular point in time.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
it really wasn't, it's sort of a
Yep.
two-pronged
Yeah,
question,
no,
but
that
getting
makes
at, there's
sense.
a positive reason for communicating these things.
Absolutely.
sometimes.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, we're trying to figure, we want to make sure that we're getting information out too. We have meetings with our reading math specialists in the next couple of weeks. We were just talking about some of the different letters that are going to go out around that.
Ms. Leskey, is that all?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Welk, I have 3 points. One is, thank you for the introductory letters and the notification letters related to MTSS. I was happy to see that. I saw the introduction letter at the beginning of the year, and, it's directly responsive, I think, to needs that were expressed in two groups that I'm involved in here in the school committee and also CPAC. So I was happy to see that. To clarify, the IEP structural change is will be a mandated shift,
Yes.
correct? Okay,
Yes.
so that we're not deciding that unilaterally as a district that we're going to change
No.
anything.
This is
And we're not
this is
early
from DESE.
adopters.
That, right, so that was clear. I just didn't know so I just want to make sure it's not as though we have a choice and it's something
Right.
that we're state is mandating.
Correct.
Just wanted to clarify that for anyone that's watching, because it wasn't immediately clear to me. I am going to double down on Mr. Carr's point, however. It's going to be important. I think that when I mean, this is all new for everyone, I guess, but when you can reduce it to a concise and intuitive format, and you include it or incorporate it into one of your presentations here, so you can show the families exactly what this change is. I think literally putting them side by side. Here's what we had.
Crosswalk.
Here's what the new structure is. Here are the changes. Well, here's what to expect, something like that. Okay, that'd be helpful. because
Desi might even come up with a
Really-
crosswalk.
Yeah, with the crosswalk, so
Yeah.
you'll be able to put that up. So a lot of times they will do that.
Right.
When we change the standards, they say this is what it was, this is what it is now, so. absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's important. I agree with Mr. Carr. I think we should do that. I think it's incumbent upon us to inform everyone, even though it may be readily accessible through other avenues.
Agreed.
I think it's
But it-
incumbent upon us to do that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Wonka. Moving right on to our budget and finance report. I turn to our Director of Finance and Operations, Mrs. Susan Owen. So,
Good evening.
You have the power.
Did you put that up?
No, I can put it up if you like,
Oh,
but
no.
I gave you the power to share too.
Oh, it just popped up on my screen. Sorry.
But I can share if you like.
I have.
I also have the power.
gotta get rid of those plastic.
Yeah.
There's all
That's
plastic.
causing more problems than.
Plastic bottles. Okay, I'll be very short and sweet. This is just a wrap up of FY '23, so I just want to kind of give you an update of how we ended the year. Usually I'm on the next meeting, which I'll talk about current year, but this is how we closed out FY '23. So we expended 22,232,000 out of the 22,345 budget, which is about 99.99% of our budget. We did carry about $12,280 in encumbered purchase orders, which is pretty much depleted now, since we're through the summer and into September.
The good news is that we're in a deficit, we ended the year, and we came really close. There's a heavy balance of $739.59, that will go back to the town. And then any savings, realized from POs that canceled, that 12,282 will also be returned to the town. So close, didn't spend it down to zero, but definitely didn't have too much to give back this year. It was a very tight year this year. All salaries always have been paid out. Sped tuitions were right on budget. A few highlighted areas would be the transportation. Let me see if I can roll this down. In the transportation, we had a deficit of $58,661. Basically, this was due to the shortage of drivers that we went through past year, and I need to contract with First Student Transportation to rent, lease, 2 drivers, 2 buses. So obviously that didn't hit our transportation budget. The other account that, we're going to look at closely this year is our utility budget. Our utility budget came in as a shortfall of about $38,394. We will be watching those accounts closely, and we may need to request an increase in our FY25 budget to our utilities account. Custodial supplies, again, a deficit of about $49,000. We will be watching those accounts closely as well. Most likely we'll be asking for an increase to the custodial budgets for the FY25 period. As we know, the school custodians have taken over quite a bit of work from the DPW, the landscaping of all our courtyards, to include mowing, weed whacking, and cleaning up of leaves, entryways, pathways, flower beds, and we've absorbed the cost up to this point, and it's showing by leaving us in a deficit. We also had to, we had to purchase lawnmowers and weed whackers and shovels. And so again, our custodial supplies account need to be increased since we've increased what our obligations are to the district. I'm not going to go through circuit breaker. There's been no changes. Capital outlay, obviously, we completed all of our projects for FY23. A voted capital for FY24 are well in place. Our grants for FY23 were all expended down to 0. I do want to touch base briefly on the revolving accounts because I know there was questions or concerns about the balances that we were carrying in those accounts. And you can see here in those accounts that we have definitely expended quite a bit of them. So one of them, the question with the athletic revolving, we now have a balance of about $36,000 to start our year with. Same thing with our transportation revolving. We had about $20,000. School facilities were still running a deficit of minus 15,000. And then our school lunch program, again, does carry quite a bit of a surplus of funding. Goes back to lunches are free. Every district's going through the same thing. Typically we're scraping for money, and now with this free lunch, we have an abundance, which has been very helpful to us. So we definitely we've purchased all new equipment in the kitchens at this building, all new furniture, cafeteria tables. We're furnishing the upper and lower lobbies for the middle high school lunchrooms,
Senior cafe,
the teachers cafe. So we're definitely reinvesting back into the program, which is where it has to go. And they're going through, it is the beginning of the year, but this is how we ended the year. The plan is moving forward. There will be researching different areas of purchasing different types of foods that are a little more costly, that will help spend this down. And we're desperately looking for staff. So if anyone is looking for a cook position or just wants to be a cafeteria helper, we are definitely looking for staff. We're short about 3 bodies right now. So
Well, see ASP.
If anyone's interested in being an ESP, we're looking for.
Your turn's over.
Get your chance, Mr. Moore.
You lost it. Few highlights at the very end. Get there. Middle school, high school, fitness centers complete, which you saw. We're gonna start opening it up Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 6. The Learning Commons, which we're sitting in, has already started that progress, in that program of being open from Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 6. Osgood Elementary School, we have the new renovated vestibule. It's completed right down to, I think we're just waiting for the window.
It's
Here, right?
it's here. It should
Here,
be-
it has not been installed.
Yeah, it'll be installed within the next couple of days.
And I also want to recognize the vice chair for all the hard work that he's put into making sure that vestibule.
Absolutely, absolutely.
He's not here, so I hope his is. Oh, he's right there. Did you leave or come back? Seriously, like,
Okay.
am I that tired?
He walked
I
around.
did, I walked to throw a
Oh,
plastic
well,
bottle
I
in the
did.
recycle bin.
So I'm glad, you said yes, we're.
Festival is
Thank you.
almost 100% complete,
No, you're
which
right.
is great. Deer Hill, the new Susan B. McNamara Innovation Commons is well underway. And provide a much needed upgrade to our existing library and learning commons in that school. Very excited about that. Transportation, our 8 new buses have arrived and are being put to work. We are awaiting the arrival of electric bus, which should be here by December. We, in order to ensure that we had a smooth start to the school year and had no transportation glitches, we have leased 1 bus for the first student, but we are providing our own driver.
That's right.
So it just in case we have a bus breakdown until we get that electric bus, we definitely have, we're well staffed. So, even though it was a fiscally challenging year, we were able to close the year with a very minute balance of $700 and something dollars. Hopefully next year it will be a little bit better. But that pretty much concludes just what the year end looked like. It was very tight, but it was balanced. It was just a very busy year.
It was.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. That concludes your report.
It concludes my report.
Okay, well, thank you for your hard work during a challenging year for that result that you just articulated. Are there any questions for Ms. Owen, starting with Mr. Carr?
I just want to say thank you on the electric bus. I know this was a challenging thing, but I think it's good for the town. It took a lot of effort. Bill did a very nice job with the media release on that, and I think a lot of people are very excited about taking this step forward in the town. So just personally saying thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Mr. Terry?
Again, thank you. The new school buses are beautiful. It does show a little pride that we have brand new school buses. They're just beautiful. So
They look
thank you for
great.
that. I do want to talk about the AC in the school. Our kids are coming on home hot. I've been hearing it from kids and parents. And I know we still have $500,000 in an account for those ACs. So I was at the point where I know you guys are gonna have some kind of a plan this week because it's gonna be 90 degrees. I guess that.
Yeah,
you're
we're
looking for
using
classrooms that are more.
using
comfortable.
alternative classrooms.
Right. So
The
what-
MIAA has rules around.
So what's to say that, I know we're getting estimates and we don't know if we're gonna build a new school, what we're gonna do, but in the meantime, I think we still do have that $500,000 in the account, correct, Sue?
And
From the
For the
previous
Deer
year.
Hill and this.
The air handlers.
Yeah, Deer Hill.
There are air handlers, okay. So now, I guess the question is, how do we move that forward? And is that indicated for air handlers or can we use that to fund air conditionings in the classrooms?
Well, we'd have to go through capital to get the air conditioners. Right now, it's allocated for the air handlers on
Right.
top of
We
the.
have to.
Okay, so the air handlers so we still don't have enough money to fix. I mean, where are we with the,
We've gone out to bid twice.
okay,
The first time we went out, they came in the few people that did bid came in like $1 million over what we had budgeted. So then Michelle Leary from the town hall, the procurement office, I worked with Nick to change up the bid document to see if it would be more inviting to other contractors, and they went out to bid, I would say probably 6 months ago now, and we had not one contractor bid.
Okay, so.
So then we couldn't get anyone to bid on it. So the plan was, I believe, Nick and Ms. Larry were going to separate them out, do a bid for the Deer Hill and do a bid for this building, to see what the prices came in at. And we could only probably afford to do one of the two, if that.
Okay,
We
so,
don't really know what the prices.
They came way higher, way
They
higher.
were $1 million too much.
okay, so why don't we put that on us? Ted, do you mind if we
Wanna
put
do
that as
something on
an
that?
agenda item? Because like our kids are sitting in really hot classrooms right now. And you know, I do want to share a study from Harvard that I will share with everybody here. And every 1% of overheating, you lose 1% of education. So as you know, statistically, we're losing 10% because our classrooms are probably 10% too high. So it's a learning, it definitely affects the
Yeah.
kids' learning. That's my point. So I would like to make that a priority if we could on the next agenda, and if we could invite Nick and Michelle into the fold so that, because we've been sitting on this for years. I mean, the money's been just sitting there and we haven't done anything with it. So it has to, if it's for air handlers, you know, maybe we can look at specifically what exactly they're talking about. Because, you know, it's hot. So,
I hope you can get that subcommittee, Mr. Kearney, because it sounds like Tara and you will be working it out, because I know that you've been talking about this since the first year you were on the school committee.
yeah, it's,
That's frustrating for you.
yeah.
And then for
Well,
our students, which are always
For our
your
students, our
priority.
kids, yeah, and I think we can all agree. I mean, it's something we gotta get fixed, and that should be on our priority list. And I just would make it a personal goal that we have it done by next time being May, right? So we have, you know, we can probably get through this. Well, we're gonna have to get through this season, but next season, I would really like to make sure by springtime that we have that problem solved.
Yeah, I think we also need to educate ourselves a little bit about what these air handlers will do.
Yeah,
Because they're not going to outfit our classes with air conditioning. So I think you have to understand that. The way I understand it.
They're not.
They're not air conditioners. Those are movers, so they move the air in the gymnasium and in the cafeteria. They're on the roof. So that's a totally separate ask. That obviously came out in the AI3 report as something we need badly through our HVAC. But that really, to me, amounts to what I would say a new building, or at least a cost that's so extensive that it might necessitate a new building. So I think we have to be realistic about air conditioning and how much it costs and what it provides for us. Those air handlers are not going to condition the classrooms.
yeah, but they'll still move the air. I mean.
They'll move the air out of the
The
gymnasium.
gymnasium, we shouldn't, to be honest with you.
They're necessary.
We'll
but I think we
table
have to
this, but,
understand.
you know, it's dangerous. It's dangerous in the summer. It's dangerous that someone's gonna pass out in that, in the audit, in the gym, because it gets so hot.
Agreed. I just want to make sure I temper our expectation of those and what they're going to do for our classrooms.
Right, and that's why I'm saying that what we did, and I think we did something in the Deer Hill, that in some of the exterior classrooms that had windows, we
Yep.
put an AC unit.
You did? We
You know,
did
I
that
think
here too.
you know, that's something that you could, I mean, AC units, they're very inexpensive, probably like $500 a window.
I'll tell you, the upper wing here in the high school, the English wing and the social studies wing is very hot. It's the hottest.
Yeah.
Those are the hottest classes.
So, Mr. Kearney, why don't you go into the subcommittee meeting with an
Yeah.
open mind? I don't think we need to, rule out any sort of options, but
Right.
talk about it there. I mean, obviously, we got to move on because
Yeah,
there's,
no,
one sort of budget. specific
No, I
item.
get it,
We'll
I
talk
get
about
it,
the
I
budget.
just,
So,
I do.
but I think it sounds like Mr.
We
Carr is very
appreciate
willing to talk about it
Yeah.
and,
So we'll make that
and bring us,
agenda
bring us a proposal to
item.
consider.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Leskey, do you have any questions for Ms. Owen?
Thank you. And I also really appreciated in the materials that I received, the fact that even though our utility bills are going up, our actual usage is going down. And just to tie in with Mr. Norman's presentation about sort of having a more environmentally conscious operation, I thought that was really encouraging news. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leskey. Ms. Owen, my question is just related to the deficits. So transportation is explained away because we had the driver issue. Custodial, to me, is explained away with the additional duties that were sort of thrust upon them. Not thrust upon them, we all talked about it and collaborated on it. The outdoor, sort of grounds, there may have been, I'm sure, additional costs incurred because that's sort of an additional duty. But utilities, what do you think was the culprit there?
Price.
Ah. Okay.
I think it comes down to just cost,
Okay.
what we're being charged. What she just said, our usage is down, but the costs are up.
Okay. It's just-
I don't think, we didn't, when you compare year to year, what our usage was, we are lower.
All right. Okay, well, there's not much we can do about that.
I forgot one thing. I was so pleased to see that the curbs were all fixed on.
Oh, and
That
that's
was very nice.
hats off to Sue Owen.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Hats off to the DPW.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
Rosanna,
hats off for Sue for making,
Others on us came in, did?
but it's a team effort and I
Thank
appreciate
you for
Brian
doing that.
Joyce and his
Support.
team. But thank you to Sue for also raising the issue.
Thank you for a well-managed fiscal year. Moving on, we have, I think, a gift, Ms. Owen, correct?
We do.
Okay, the gift is in the amount of $4,820.10
I have it here.
from the CF. Excuse me, no, there's more than that. It's $8,065.
I'll explain it.
Okay,
So,
great idea.
the gift from the CEF grant was a total of $12,885.10. They had a balance of unused grant funds from FY '22 in the amount of $865. So in order to make up the difference, they wrote a check for the $4,820.10 to make that $12,885 complete, to cover the grant for spring, this past spring.
Okay, great. Unless there's any discussion, I'd entertain a motion to accept this generous gift from our Cohasset Education Foundation. Is there a motion to that effect? Motion's been made by Ms. Leskey,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Carr. All in favor, voice vote? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. The gift is accepted. Ms. Owen,
Thank you.
thank you, CEF.
One last financial question, sorry. The stabilization fund for the schools, can it only be appropriated money or can gifts also go to the stabilization? You know that?
Appropriated.
I believe it's, and I believe we have to yearly
Do it.
advocate
Okay.
for whatever amount we want
Got
for that.
Got it. Okay.
But it can be established and funds can be appropriated from it in the same town meeting.
In the
Uh,
same meeting. Okay, excellent, excellent. Look forward to learning more about it.
It's an interesting, it's a novel thing for this town. It's, I think, a pretty fiscally responsible
Great idea.
financial planning tool
Mhm.
that the town could certainly benefit from. 'Cause I think
It's a
we're-
it's a
right,
great,
but
I think it's great maintenance.
I think that we'll learn more about it. I think that honestly, the select board is sort of educating themselves about it as we go. And Ms. Healy Dipple was, I think, has educated herself about it a lot, but they'll be back, I'm sure, to explain more about that. Okay, moving on, superintendent evaluation. So
Shall I share my evaluation on screen?
sure.
Okay.
You can do that. Everyone received a copy of the summative evaluation, which is a sort of conglomeration of all of our input that the chairperson puts together. And thankfully, I'm not currently the chairperson. We have to do this. It is a pretty burdensome task. And so Mr. Dial has completed this for us. But I won't review, this will be available to everyone. We'll need to obviously approve it at this meeting. I presume that everyone's reviewed it. What I did want to just do for the record, though, was at least, if you can scroll down to the first and foremost, you obviously got a positive evaluation, Dr. Sullivan. if you just scroll down to the second page where there's a narrative portion that
Oh,
explains
yes.
the overall rating. It's
These are all section.
it starts although not unanimous.
Yes, you see,
I feel like it was like
I apologize.
it's okay. It's like the second page. It's weird.
Well, okay, you got that page. You get that, there it is.
There it is. Okay. So just to explain to everyone that's watching or that will watch a recording, every year, it is the school committee's responsibility to evaluate the performance of our superintendent. It's one of our primary charges and duties to oversee the superintendent. And each of us independently fills out this prescribed form, which has certain rating criteria and compares it to superintendent's goals and strategic initiatives, and just discusses generally his performance in addition to whether or not he achieved his goals. I say his because in this case we have a male superintendent, so that's how I'm describing it for our district. And so I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but I did want to read this into the record because this is sort of a summary of what our collective position is in terms of Dr. Sullivan's performance in the preceding academic year of 22-23. Although not unanimous, it is the collective position of the Cohasset School Committee that throughout the 2022-23 school academic year, the superintendent of Cohasset Public Schools, Dr. Patrick Sullivan, exceeded the rigorous level of performance expected of superintendent. This conclusion is based on Dr. Sullivan's overall professionalism, compassion, and dedication to the district. In addition, members of the CSC recognized Dr. Sullivan's student-centric approach, the high priority he places on community input and engagement, and the high expectations he places on himself and his staff. Dr. Sullivan is zealous in his mission to build the Cohasset School District into the best school district in the Commonwealth, and the CSC fully supports his efforts. Committee members also commented favorably, on Dr. Sullivan's humility and willingness to accept and respond to feedback, both from the CSC and from the community at large. Based on these characteristics, the CSC views Dr. Sullivan as a strong leader, pushing our schools to become better and better, coupled with a litany of specific achievements towards state goals and navigating through several challenges. The CSC believes that Dr. Sullivan has earned an exemplary rating for his performance over the prior school year. One member specifically noted their view that Dr. Sullivan's response, along with his staff, to underwhelming MCAS results in the fall was strong, decisive, and directly responsive to CSC and community requests. And it goes on to further specify in other areas, but I will open it up to any sort of comments or anything that anyone wants to say. I just do want to congratulate Dr. Sullivan on this. It's a major achievement. He has received this rating, which is very high. So just to let everyone know, you can see the 4 levels there. One's unsatisfactory, which would ultimately usually lead to some sort of discharge. Needs improvement, proficient, and exemplary. So proficient is the expected rigorous level of performance. Superintendents are expected to perform at a high level, and proficient is that level. So someone that is performing well earns a rating of proficient. This committee believed and has believed for the past 2 years. I think this is your 3rd one, Dr. Sullivan, receiving an exemplary rating. Oh, you've always received an exemplary rating. So however many years you have been superintendent, you have received one. So it says a lot about you. I personally, and as a school committee, as a member, as a parent, really value you. I think that you are exemplary in a lot of ways. I think you bring a lot of positive energy. You're an agent of change. And more than anything, as it says there, I think you always consider the needs of our students first and foremost in everything that you do. So thank you. Open it up to any sort of comments any of the committee members want to make. Mr. Carr?
So first of all, let me comment on the process. I thought this is my first time doing one of these. I wish more executives in the town had a similar aggressive evaluation. you unfortunately are alone in category of one. I kept using the word compassion, so I'm glad it hung in there because that's very clear to me, that you really care about this place. And it's been an honor to, get to know you this last year. And this is just an example of how well I think you do your job. And we're very lucky you're here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Mr. Kearney.
I echo what you're saying and I appreciate that. I do want to say this too. I think sometimes we get overwhelmed, we get passionate. There's always something, especially me, there's always something bothering me with the school system. But I feel like I really get a voice. Like I guess what I want to say to you is you hear us like as a committee. I think that when we talked about with special services and how we needed someone to fulfill the position, math specialist or whatever it was, I feel like you're all hands-on and you've been able to show us that you can do it. So with that said, I'm so excited that you're here. I'm just excited to continue to work because I think we still have a lot of work to do. I think your team is awesome as well. It makes it for what it is. And, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the parents that I hear, they're very happy with the school system. So, and sometimes it's what you don't hear, right? So kudos and thank you to the staff.
Thank you, Mr. Kearney.
Thank you, Mr. Kearney. Mr. Steve.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you. I feel very lucky as a parent to have children in this district. That is a district that's continually reflecting and growing. And I think that that's probably one of the most important things educators can do, because our understanding of these wonderful little minds we're working with changes constantly. And so really always being willing to change and grow with these wonderful students you have. So thank you for all of that. Thank you to the team, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Keep on doing a good job for us, Dr. Sullivan. With that, is there a motion to approve this year's superintendent evaluation as presented?
So
Assigning an exemplary rating to our superintendent. Motion has been made by Mr. Kearney,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Carr. All in favor, voice vote, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion unanimously carries. Congratulations, Dr. Sullivan.
It's an honor to work in this district. So.
You're a great leader. Yeah, you're a
Thank you.
great leader.
Yes.
It's an absolute pleasure. And we have a great team. We do have.
It's a team and the staff is amazing. Yeah, the teachers and everyone. So thank you for recognizing that. I appreciate it.
All right. Moving right on to starting right now. Evaluation for the next academic year. Food service. Miss Owen, are there any food service specific updates? I do want to get a subcommittee meeting plan, at least scheduled, because they had requested some time, because we wanted a service improvement plan for the elementary levels from them. So they wanted some. So if you can start talking to them about getting that on the docket for whether it's late September, early October, I haven't forgotten.
No, we know you haven't forgotten.
All right.
We actually talked about it.
Okay. good.
October's probably gonna be better, because right now, as I said, they're down 3 staff. I shouldn't say, we have no cook
That's true.
in the middle high school right now, so our assistant director and our director are both filling in cooking.
Perfect. So October 1st. No, I'm just kidding. But no, but that's fine. So can you please get some dates from them that work, and then we'll schedule that.
Absolutely.
Anything else, anything else?
No,
in the
they
fact
do
that
have a
we're sort of
plan. They
short-staffed?
do have a whole plan laid out for us, so.
I will say, it was at the middle school, high school lunch. I don't remember. I was walking with Dr. Sullivan. I think it was a middle school. It was 7th grade. And all the kids seemed really excited and happy. So as they have been historically at that building or lately. So I sort of missed food service at the elementary level, but saw the meeting. Everyone seemed happy. So. All right, let us know. Keep us posted. Transportation. Any questions about food service? Okay. Transportation, anything? I think you sort of worked that into your last.
Yeah.
your report. Okay, any questions relative to transportation for Ms. Owen, I know, Mr. Carr, you had the thank you about the electric bus, so we sort of hit on that already. Report from School Facilities Committee. That's no longer us. We're gonna have to, I think, invite someone every once in a while. I'll probably talk to Mr. Dial about removing this as a standing item. It'll probably be more along the lines of once a month or something like that, because it was easier when one of the committee members was on the School Facilities Committee, but can't expect one of them to come every single time. I do know that they're developing a list, sort of time and priority based, in terms of in connection with the stabilization fund that we heard about earlier today, so that we can start to figure out how we're going to apply that money or appropriate that money. Reports from committees, subcommittees, liaison positions, any, just give them at will.
Well, we're meeting on Monday, was it Monday, Tuesday.
Tuesday.
And again, we talked about it tonight pretty much what it was about, and it was long, it was an hour and a half. So we were engaged, and we did get a lot of questions and answers, and I felt like it was a pretty productive meeting. So I feel like it's definitely moving in the right direction.
Thanks, Mr. Kieran. Anyone else? Any other reports?
The only thing on the select board is they are, it's hard to manage. You try to remember everybody's supposed to invite to meetings and stuff, but there's a pattern of not inviting the right people to their meetings. So I'm going to start paying attention to that end of the business to make sure if there's anything relevant to us that we at least know that if we need to get somebody to go. So I'll take that on and I'll make sure I'll just feed it in for the administration. And if we need to get somebody organized off the meeting schedule, we'll go over there and like, they have a very aggressive agenda this year. It's good.
They do. I would say partially brought upon by the school committee's aggressive pursuit of resources for the district.
They really, I feel they really are watching for the future. And that hasn't happened in a long time. And
Yes.
that's true.
That's great.
All right. Anything else from anyone? Nothing from me either. Moving on to the next section. I do not have any topics that were not reasonably anticipated prior to the posting deadline. We do have two sets of minutes to
Yep.
approve, one from the June 7th, 2023 meeting, one from the June 21st, 2023 meeting. All members that are present here were present at the meeting, so everyone can vote. Mr. Carr.
So we have only one outstanding 7 minutes, the last meeting. So Kathy's done a great job, continues to be my personal superhero in this process, and she's wonderful. So I will get those final edits done, and then we can vote on that. We are now caught up both at the town website and the school's website for minute postings and everything. That's wonderful. Thank you to Jennifer and everybody for doing that. We did talk to the town clerk at length, and so I'll send a note after we vote these back to just say these are approved. That's what we do. And then Jennifer can send those also to the town clerk, and the town clerk posts on their website, and I think Jennifer does it. So I think we're pretty caught up.
Mr. Carr, can't thank you enough. That's a Herculean task, and
Oh,
honestly,
it's-
it was one of my failings as chair. We would chair. There was a great backlog when I was managing the committee, and I mean there were, some just distinct circumstances at that time. But this is amazing. That's
it's hard to do.
really, really excellent work. We're
Thank you.
really fortunate to have you
I gotta tell you, it's just
and Ms. Bob.
having Kathy doing this stuff is really very important. They are, excellent documents. When you look at them, and people read them.
And she's always listening, so we can
Yep.
thank her right
Oh,
now.
yeah, that's
Yes,
right.
so thank you so much.
And
Ms. Bob.
I would say to talk to the town clerk, just for future notice, we do have 6 months to catch up on meeting minutes.
Oh,
So we should not use that again, but just so everybody knows there's a state date.
okay. So that's good to know. Well, thank you. So I will presume that everyone has reviewed them because they were incorporated as part of the packet. There are two sets of meeting minutes. We will vote on them individually, starting with the earliest of June 7th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes for that school committee meeting as submitted by our secretary, Mr. Carr?
So
Motion's been made by Mr. Carr. Is there a second?
Second.
second by Mr. Gillespie. All in favor, voice vote, aye. Yeah, all in favor, aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion unanimously carries. Those minutes are approved and will be posted. Second set of meetings is for the June 21st, 2023 meeting of the school committee. Is there a motion to approve those minutes as presented by our secretary, Mr. Carr? Motion's been made by Mr. Kearney. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Leskey. All in favor, voice vote, aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion unanimously carries, and those meeting minutes are approved and will be posted. Thank you so much, Mr. Carr. Anyone have any future agenda items that they would like to share? I know you will, Mr. Kearney, but going to Mr. Carr first alphabetically.
There's something I can't remember right now. Can you
Okay,
come back
why don't we
me
go to
in a
Mr.
second?
Kearney because he knows what he wants to say.
Sorry.
Yeah, you know what is the number one killer of children is car accidents, and I just want to reiterate some of the safety to keep preventable from happening. Also, too, is there's been a kind of a synergy of parents that want to really talk about teenage drinking, and we need to address some of the concerns of the parents that, and I'm one of them, to be honest with you. We're seeing it, and it's as low as 16 years old. My family just lost a 16-year-old. It's a cousin. My cousin lost his son last week, and it involved drinking and bad decisions. So I would like us as a community to kind of say, it's okay to say no. There's pressure from, especially from sports teams, not getting invited to special events because you don't drink. I've spoke with, as you know, I'm a liaison with the Safe Harbor, and they have some ideas and some that they want to bring in
Yes.
to let teenagers know it's okay to say no. You're still invited to the party. You still can drink, but you don't have to have alcohol. There's other drinks that you can share to be social. My son and I did the radio show. Matter of fact, the same day that our cousin, not knowing that, had passed away, Jack was on my show. One of the things that my son said is, and I had that father-son talk, but on the radio show. So it was kind of cool, and I'll share it with you guys. And one of the things that there's three things that Jack said that the reason why he won't drink. One of them was his relationship with God. Number one was his relationship with his schoolwork. And the other relationship was he's on the track team, he's on the cross-country team. So those are the things that came from a child, it came from a teenager. So I think that as a community that I'd like to get the discussions to go and let parents know that if they're letting kids drink in their house, it's punishable by law. They could get sued, and let them know, because where are these kids getting the alcohol? They're getting it from an older sibling, and let the older sibling know that it's not cool. And then I think as a community, we need to educate people on why it's important that children don't drink. And the statistics are simple as like, the longer you keep kids away from alcohol, the less they're likely to abuse it. What are the signs that your kid might be having an alcohol problem? That would be not doing well in school, their grades. And a lot of this leads to depression. And I think that as a community, I'd like to see us come together and come out and know that it's okay not to drink. It's okay to say no. And I think those messages need to be sent through the screens in our schools. And I think that we need to educate the parents on how important it is. And simply telling a kid that's hungover, it takes them so long to recuperate from being that. So
Mr. Kearney, trying to reduce that to an agenda item, are you proposing that, like, you would want to have maybe Safe Harbor give a presentation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or would you want to hear something on the health curriculum center around substance abuse?
I'd like to hear it from our kids. I thank you for that. I think I'd like to hear it from our kids. They also too they've been advocating for a wellness day, Safe Harbor, and I guess it didn't go as where they wanted it to go. So Ted and I were talking about on our school council that we're going to be able to advocate for that, because I think it's important that kids have the wellness day. So yeah, I would like to see that on the agenda and bring Safe Harbor and all the work that they're doing. And I got to be honest, if you guys have, out there, if you're listening, sign your kids up for that.
Yeah.
Like, sign your kids up for safe harbor. It's, I'm not the one, when I sat down with Jack, I don't have to educate him in a way because he's heard it so much from me. Safe Harbor's been educating on my
And
children.
this is wonderful. And we do have an alcohol awareness event that's being organized at our high school with Safe Harbors. And I think, Mr. Kearney, that would be a nice springboard
Yeah,
to meet with the permission of Vice Chair and the Chair to maybe bring Safe Harbors here to talk a bit more about that and about their efforts and working with the schools.
Yeah, there could be some value in that and maybe incorporating some students in it or something. I don't know. I mean, you can discuss it. with
Yeah, no,
Kyle.
but I echo everything you
You
said.
noted it. So anything else, Mr. Kearney?
no, that's.
Okay.
It's,
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. Mr. Carr, have you, does
Yeah,
that come
so,
to you?
thank you. So earlier this year, we heard from an outside group that was going to organize a trip in the spring that was a fundraising opportunity to go, I think, Latin America and build a school.
Yes.
And we asked them some questions and they were going to come back at some point. It would be great if we could have them back in before the spring sneaks up on us.
Okay.
Yes, that was Carolyn Crimmins. And yep, that's great.
We told them we'd invite them back and just think we probably should.
Okay. And is that it from you, Mr. Carr?
Yeah.
Ms. Leskey, do you have any proposed future agenda items?
Not at the moment.
Okay, mine would just be to ensure that we have the Metco panel again. We
Yep.
haven't had that in a while, and I'd really like to have
Love it.
that. So let's work that in. And my guess, Dr. Sullivan, you have plenty of spotlights on learning plan. Okay. So. Great.
All really student based and with student participation. And we'd love to just have some technology matters and some furniture matters to handle, but we'd like to move the school committee. We'll discuss this more to certain schools as we have these spotlights. I think it provides we're going to have these poly devices and it'll make for a nice, I find that makes for a really nice community event as the school itself is highlighted.
Yeah, we have, I think, good libraries to have them in each of the buildings.
And this will be our base, but.
Right,
that'd be fun.
right.
Yeah.
But I'm not just talking about, by the way, if the Metco going there, we should do that again.
Oh, I
I'm
know.
also talking about
You're
that,
talking about
like
the panel.
robust discussion we had that
I know
time.
exactly what you're talking
Okay.
about. That makes complete sense.
All
And
right.
again, that ties in with student voice, right? So-
Right. Okay, so did you independently write all those down? Because I wrote.
I have safety teenage drinking alcohol awareness, safe harbors. I have the Latin American trip coming back and I have Metco.
Okay, so you have, things, I just didn't know if I need to share them with you.
I have to talk to Mr. Dial about these.
All right.
So many.
All right, give this guy an exemplary rating. Executive session, no reason to move into executive session that I know of. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Some.
Motion made by Mr. Carr, give Mr. Kearney a second. All in favor, voice aye. Opposed, abstentions, unanimously carries. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. So when my daughter came